Haunted dolls for sale on the web are not unusual in our day and age, some becoming so popular that they inspired horror movies. But what if I told you there was a doll who, just by seeing a photo or hearing his story, has the ability to make you deathly sick, or worse, even kill you? His name is Harold, and this is his story.
Hey there, Morbid Maniacs. It's time for another spooky video, a part of VLOGTOBER. And for tonight's spooky video, I'm going to be talking all about Harold the Haunted Doll. The story of Harold begins in 2003 when a man by the name of Greg posted Harold for sale on eBay. Greg had just moved to New York City in 2001 and lived in the Upper East Side of the city with his brother, who sold antique items on eBay, including dolls. The selling was listed as Haunted Harold, and many people were viewing and bidding on the doll. Harold is a composition doll from the 18 to 1900s. He stands at 21 inches tall. His arms and legs are made of composition and his body is made of cloth. He is created with a voice mechanism in his stomach that would allow it to produce sounds such as mama while being rocked or shaken. The eBayer who posted Harold gave a little backstory as to how he ended up with the doll in the first place. According to Greg, he had purchased Harold the doll at a flea market in Webster, Florida for $20. The man that he had purchased Harold from had claimed that he had bought this doll as a gift for his son. And after his son passed away, he began hearing strange noises coming from his son's bedroom, such as crying and singing. When he would walk in to check it out, however, he would find nothing. Harold seemingly brought upon a lot of bad luck, as well as 2 days after the man had purchased Harold, his cat had died and his girlfriend had broke up with him. He also began to experience horrible migraines. He attempted to reach out to a priest who had simply told him to burn the doll. The man tried and tried, however, Harold's legs and arms would not budge. The man believed this doll was cursed, and so he placed Harold in an armadillo coffin and placed it inside of his basement. After doing so, the noises continued. Night would come, and the sounds of children laughing and crying would echo in the room. Yet when he would venture to see what happened, he would find nothing. He even stated that sometimes whenever he touched the doll, it felt as though it had a pulse. The doll got over 100,000 views on eBay. The first winner did not pay, however, the second bought the doll for $300. The woman's name was Kathy. She claimed that she purchased the doll to learn about doll restoration and to fix him. However, she got much more than that. Kathy was from Ireland and she was visiting New York for her aunt's wedding. She was also supposed to join her aunt in a cruise with her husband Rick after the wedding. When she arrived in New York, she met up with George and he gave her the doll. She would keep Harold in the trunk of her car until she had told her aunt about it and she wanted to see him. Kathy removed Harold from her trunk and her aunt started laughing, having no idea that this doll was haunted. The next day, the aunt called Kathy from work stating that her back had gone out and she needed to be picked up. Later, the doctor had determined that she had a herniated disc in her back and put her on bed rest until her wedding. The next day, the aunt's fiancé was having the same back problems, and he was also found to have a herniated disc in his back as well. Kathy's back was the next to go out. Kathy thought nothing of it and found it to be a coincidence. The aunt's wedding came, and it was a complete disaster. The hairdresser did not show up, the cake had fell apart, and her groom had been saying his vows in a wheelchair. A week before the cruise, Kathy had received a call from her aunt stating that she was not able to join as they both had bronchitis, strep throat, and shingles. During all of this, Kathy still hadn't connected the dots with the doll. Kathy was also a part of an online group where she would post Harold. It was there that someone got the bright idea to tell her that she should take Harold on the cruise with them. The cruise would not go as planned. Kathy's luggage, including Harold, was lost throughout the entire duration of the cruise. She had only 2 outfits to wear, and all of her toiletries were lost as well. And 10 minutes right before the cruise had ended, the front desk had called Kathy, letting her know that her luggage had been found. It had been in another man's room the entire trip, and he had only decided to turn it in then. The couple returned to her aunt's house before heading home, and although the aunt had been healed from her back injury for almost 2 weeks, once again she had to be rushed to the emergency room. Kathy began to realize that Harold was the cause of all of the terrible misfortunes and bad luck they had experienced. She decided to not take him on the plane ride home, but rather ship him back to Ireland, where she would then, a year later, put him back up for option. This is when Anthony Quinata from Mexico became the new owner of Harold the doll. He won the doll in Kathy's eBay auction in 2004. Kathy attempted to warn Anthony of the doll and make sure he really wanted it. Anthony had a history of buying haunted objects. He originally purchased Harold believing that the stories of it were nothing more than a hoax. Anthony and Kathy began messaging each other back and forth. Kathy warned him over and over about the events she had encountered since becoming into her possession. Kathy also spoke of another group of her friends named John and Veronica. John and Veronica were travelers and were headed to Amsterdam. They visited with Kathy and Rick one night for dinner. Veronica liked to collect antiques and wanted to see the doll. She then laughed and mocked Harold's appearance. John would later call Kathy a few days after to inform them that Veronica had fallen down a flight of stairs and that she had passed away from her head injuries. After Veronica's death, John moved to South Africa, and so Kathy and Rick took in a boarder that had been staying with a couple named Stephen. Kathy had placed the doll within the guest bedroom, forgetting all about him, and this was where Stephen was staying. 3 months later, Stephen began having trouble swallowing and was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer of the larynx. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Sadly, he passed away a short time after. Between the years 2004 and 2005, interesting events started taking place with Anthony while he was in the possession of Harold. He soon realized that something paranormal was definitely going on. Anthony asked a psychic friend to do an EVP session with Harold. During the reading, the psychic got extremely freaked out and told Anthony that she could not continue on with this reading as the doll had stated that he was going to kill her. Later, after Anthony had listened to the EVP they had recorded, he heard a male voice for himself that said, "I'm going to kill you, bitch," just as his friend had stated. Another friend had attempted to do a reading of Harold for Anthony, and they would leave with a bruise on their face which matched the fist of Harold the doll, as well as a bite mark on her hand, which had the tiny teeth impressions of Harold. Anthony would take Harold to the Stanley Hotel, where his friend Christy from his paranormal investigation group became entranced by him, claiming that she was not going to allow him to intimidate her. Christy's life also began to unravel, and Anthony hadn't heard from her again for 8 years. Quinata suffered from a knee injury and decided to get a lifetime supply of holy water after contributing the injury to Harold. After these events, Anthony decided to place the doll in storage where he would stay until 2013. Soon, he would find a YouTube video on Harold that was filled with misinformation, apparently all leading back to its original owner, Greg. Quinata then begins his own YouTube channel where he shares his own information on Harold the doll. He received multiple psychic readings which gave eerily similar information regarding Harold. The doll supposedly belonged to a young girl who lived in the South and died by falling from a tree and hitting her head. They also stated that it had the presence of a male and the spirit of a young boy, the girl's half-brother, who was blamed for the girl's death. The housekeeper of the home practiced voodoo and helped the girl's mother trap the boy's soul in the doll as punishment. As his channel began growing and more people were learning the story of Harold, Anthony continued receiving messages that people were allegedly becoming sick. Yes, it's believed that Harold has the ability to cause people to become physically ill or sick just by seeing a photo or hearing of his story. Those who come into contact with Harold, and I'm getting goosebumps because I'll tell you in a second, but those who become into contact with Harold will grow to have intense headaches, debilitating back pain, and severe illness. And why I said I was getting goosebumps is right after I did research about this doll. Harold, please don't come for me, buddy. Please. I'm just talking of your story. I'm not trying to cause you any harm in any way. I do not want to disturb you. I got a kidney stone. I actually think I had 2 or 3 of them, and I woke up one morning with horrible back pain to the point I could hardly move. I ended up having to go to the emergency room. I've never had a kidney stone before. It could be a result of all of the soda that I was drinking at the time. However, it's very strange. They brought this up and now I'm putting 2 and 2 together, you know. Harold has been on many paranormal shows, including Ghost Adventures on the Travel Channel. Around this time, Anthony's friend Larry had a vision that he was sure was related to Harold. In his vision, he saw a very scary man with a burnt face. There were also 2 young ladies who he described as being overwhelmingly sad. He claimed there were 2 other figures in the background as well. All of them were afraid of angering the man with the burnt face. He had a friend do a drawing of the faces he saw and sent the photo to Anthony. Another friend of his, Melanie, volunteered to draw Harold free of charge for him. After several months, she had sent him a drawing that she had done that showed a woman, 2 children, a shadowy figure, and a demon-like creature holding them in his grasp. After Melanie confirmed that Larry's drawing looked just like the ones that she felt compelled to draw, Anthony was certain that the psychic who was in the Ghost Adventures episode was right. There were 5 spirits trapped within the doll. The biggest mystery is why, how, and whom Harold is haunted. This is why Anthony started his channel. He is still currently the owner of the doll and still continues doing investigations on his channel, determined to figure out who, what, and why the doll is haunted. He even has a book all about Harold, which I have yet to read, but would like to. So there is the story of Harold the Haunted Doll. What do you guys think of this story? I really don't like to mess around with certain things because it really scares me. But like I said, Harold, I'm not here to harm you, buddy. I'm not here to disturb you in any way. I just like to talk about your story. That's it. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of this story, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a big old thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you have not already, and become Morbid Maniac. Also, be sure to hit that bell notification. That way you get notified every single time I upload a new video. And I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one.